On Friday, or Saturday, yeah. On Saturday, like last couple of minutes, we were discussing about task-based and non-task-based transactions. Let us try to reiterate, or I can say revise for a couple of minutes, and let us get into details of each of it. So, as we already discussed, non-task-based agent is something which is independent and it will get its own jobs or work to be done and it will execute. So basically, if you guys remember, we had taken an grocery store example. In the grocery store, we will have an accountant who is working maybe late evening or throughout the day, couple of times in a day, 5 times in a day, 10 times in a day. His job is he has to settle the amount whichever is present in the cash counter. It should be equal to the total of all the orders. So in order to check that, what he will do is he has to do two things. He has to get his jobs. What does that mean? He has to collect all the bills and cash from counter. Second thing is execute jobs. That is tally both the bill total and cash from counter. So basically, non-task based agent is something it has to define its own get jobs. That means from where he has to get the work being assigned. And execute jobs is going to be same. I mean, in both task based and as well as non-task based agents, we should have some execution to be done, and that execution has to be independent from each agent, sir. Is that clear, guys, on non-task based agent? Yeah. Task based agent is something which will be part of a flow. It can be an order flow or it can be any other flow within Sterling Order Management System. And it will get the jobs from YFS task table. So basically what will happen? One person will complete their job and will hand over to the next person who has to continue the job. And in order to inform the next person or next agent, they will insert a record into YFS task queue table. So the next person or the next agent, whoever is going to work, they will get the job from YFS task queue table, or they will get to know what job needs to be done from YFS task queue table. And the execution will be different for different agents or transactions. Here, yesterday or Saturday, we have taken an example of an order fulfillment in a simple grocery store. Owner is the one who takes the orders or capture the orders. Okay, and he will be reading out or he will be telling the sorry guys, sorry, excuse me. He will be telling the list of items to be weighed to the team who is weighing it. And once weighing team completes weighing, they will hand over all the packets to packing team. These people will pack the orders. And likewise, order is fulfilled for the end customer. So here, each person has to do its job. Every person is having a different job here, like all these three persons. But whenever the owner is telling the list of items, how the weighing team will know? Because they are going to put the details into one table called as YFS task queue table. And once weighing team is giving it to packing team, again it is going to be YFS task queue table. Maybe the best example here would be you might have visited Domino's or KFC or Pizza Hut. Whenever you place an order, what happens? Automatically, it will display in the system inside where the team is preparing the order. Like, for example, you placed an order for a pizza, and the minute you place an order, it will be displayed in the system in the inside. So, let us assume that as YFS task queue. And what the team will do? Team will start preparing the order. And once the preparation of order is completed, they will mark that particular order as completed and they will give the order to dispatch team, whoever has to put it into a tray, and they will also put the order number into one more system where you can see that your order is ready, so and so token number can come and take, something like that. So everywhere, wherever the order flows something like that, one person has to do is execution and give the job to next person. While giving the job, they will be putting it into YFS task queue table, and this particular team or person will pick that job. He has to do his own execution, then give it to the next person by putting it into YFS task queue. So here, get jobs is same for all the agents. That is, they have to get it from YFS task queue. And execute jobs, it's different for each individual, like how the person who is in the bill counter or the owner takes the order, the person who is weighing or preparing your order is different, and the person who is packing or dispatching is different, so their execution is different. So execute jobs will be unique based on the functionality for that particular order flow. Is that clear before we go into technical terms of non-task based agent and task based agent?
Yes, Pradeep.
Yes,
Yeah.
Pradeep.
Now, in order to, for example, I want to create a non-task queue based agent. Okay, I have a requirement and I want to create a non-task queue based agent. So, for example, my requirement is, if you remember, Pawan, you were mentioning about some hold called as remorse hold. So, what I want to do is, whenever an order is placed, this particular remorse hold will get applied onto that order. But there should be some process to resolve the hold. Okay. So in order to resolve the hold, like there are multiple ways different people will follow. Like in one of the call we have discussed about order monitoring. That is one way of doing it. But here, let us see how to resolve the hold using a non-task queue based agent. So what should happen now in order to resolve the orders which are having remorse hold or any kind of hold. I'm taking remorse hold as an example. So if I want an uh, agent which has to resolve a hold, first thing is agent should get the jobs. What is the get jobs here? It has to fetch all the orders which are having remorse hold, right? That will be the get jobs. What is execute jobs? It has to resolve the hold. Okay. Is that clear? We are going to implement this today. So I want you guys to understand that. What is the problem statement?
Yes, buddy.
Okay. So in order to write this particular task based agent, first of all, we should understand what should be the interface class which we have to write or implement. Like how you have implemented the interface class for an user exit. Like whenever you are implementing before create order user exit, you guys remember like we are implementing some interface class. So if you see when you are going to create order, you guys remember that we were implementing before create order user exit that has to be implemented by implementing this YFS before create order user exit. The same way for implementing a task queue based agent or a non-task queue based agent, we have to implement some interface class. So if you guys remember, we have also seen something called as core Java docs. As part of this, you will have YCP base agent. So you can see you have two things, YCP base agent, YCP base task agent. YCP base agent is used for non-task queue transactions and YCP base task agent is used for task queue based transactions. So when we are talking about YCP based agents, this particular interface class is used for non-task queue based transactions. So we have to write a Java class which will implement this interface. Okay. And what are we doing in that particular interface? So first of all, whenever you are writing this particular interface or any interface, if you guys remember, even like we were trying to हाँ बेटा, where was the test class? Yeah, we were trying to implement some other user exist. Now let me see. We are trying to implement this. It is asking me to. Why is it asking me to create an interface? Maybe here it doesn't have the Java jar file. Mm-mm. Okay, it's not interface. Huh? All implemented interfaces. It's an oh sorry guys, sorry. It's an abstract class. I thought it's an interface class. Sorry. Uh, sorry for the confusion. So it's an abstract class. Sorry guys. So like however we have it's a small confusion. It's been a couple of days I have written that. So yeah, So whenever it is an user exit, it's an interface class. Whenever it is an uh, agent, right? The task queue based or non-task queue based agent, it's an abstract class. So there is a small difference between interface and abstract class. Whenever you are implementing an interface, you have to implement that particular methods, whatever you are going to write. Whereas whenever it is an abstract class, you have to override that particular methods. So here, whenever you are giving it as extends, you can see it automatically shows import, and it will ask you to add unimplemented methods. So you just have to write that particular method, whatever the execution you want to do. So here, if you see this particular abstract class, whenever they are extending YCP based agent, they have to do get jobs and execute job, both of it. So here our get jobs is nothing but it has to fetch all the orders which are having remorse hold, and execute job is nothing but it has to resolve the hold. So I have already written an example here which will do this particular job for us. That is our remorse hold, getting all the orders which are having remorse hold and executing that particular sorry, resolving that particular remorse hold. So, first thing I'm reiterating just because we had a confusion. So, we have to extend an abstract class which is YCP base agent, and this YCP base agent will ask you to extract get jobs and execute job for a non-task based agent. Okay, so now let us understand what is this get jobs method, what is this execute jobs method. Execute jobs, or we can call it as execute task method. Okay, let us understand what is get jobs, what is execute task or jobs. So get jobs is something which has to identify its task, get it, and give the task to execute jobs. So how the communication between get jobs and execute jobs happens? Like how here we have discussed, right? Like whenever it is a non-task based agent, he has to get the jobs and he only has to execute his jobs. Whereas here in the system, it is the agent who is doing it. So there should be some communication between the get jobs and execute jobs. How the communication happens? So the communication happens through a JMS queue. So get jobs has to get the tasks or jobs that needs to be executed and publish the messages to execute job. So what happens whenever the get jobs is getting the messages, it will put all those messages into one queue, and that particular messages will be consumed by the execute jobs method. Is that clear? Guys, today I want you guys to talk because it is a little important topic.
Yes, Pradeep.
Yeah. So in order to have this particular get jobs and execute jobs communicate each other, we need to have a JMS queue created. And whenever the agent is running, it automatically invokes this particular abstract class, whichever we are implementing, and based on the implementation logic whatever we have did in the get jobs, it will go and get all the jobs, and it will push all the jobs into a JMS queue, and from there it will be consumed by the execute jobs and it will perform the operation. So let us see how to configure that. As part of application platform, process modeling, order fulfillment, we can go create a transaction here. Like you just have to create a transaction. You can just do not derive from any transaction. You can just give transaction ID as some test, resolve, hold or something, and give the transaction name. The minute you click on, okay, already exists, and just change it something. Jan resolve hold. So the minute you click on save, you can see these buttons are getting highlighted. And as part of the time trigger transaction, you have to define some agent criteria. Here our criteria will be, you can give any name. I'm just giving, or else I'll just give remorse hold resolve. Okay, that will be our criteria item. And you have to create an agent server. If you guys remember, so far we have created only integration server, but here we are creating an agent server. So for creating an agent server, you just have to click here, give whatever server name you want. Okay, resolve hold server, something like that you can give. You click on save, the server is created. And you have to use some alert queue. Alert queue is nothing but, like, if you guys remember, as part of integration server also we had an alerting system. Whenever any issue happens or any error or exception happens through that process of integration server consuming the message and doing the execution, that particular exception or error will be raised as an alert, so that the customer service desk team or service representative team can act on that particular exception. The same way, here also you can have the alert queue, which will get captured whenever there is an exception or error occurred as part of this particular agent server. So we are just giving some default queue. And here comes the JMS queue. JMS queue is nothing but this is the queue which we were talking just now. Whenever there is a communication between the get jobs and execute jobs, the communication has to be done as part of the JMS queue. Get jobs has to get the jobs based on the requirement. Here the requirement is it has to get all the jobs which are having remorse hold. That is nothing but all the orders which are having remorse hold. Once it gets all the orders which are having remorse hold, it has to place all the orders into the JMS queue, and it will be executed by execute jobs. So for that reason, we had to have one JMS queue. You can create a JMS queue. You guys know that process. You just have to go to service, messaging, JMS module. Under JMS module, you just have to click new queue, just give some queue. Resolve, hold, yeah, something like that. Okay, that's it. So our queue is ready. I can use that queue here. And number of threads, we will talk about this. Like it can be, the process can be running in one thread, two thread, multiple threading. And initial context factory, it's going to be WebLogic, and connection factory, it's going to be agent QCF. You guys remember we had discussed this connection factory in the earlier discussions.
Yes.
And provider URL is going to be the same, localhost 7001. And if you want to have some schedule trigger, I mean, like, for how many times in a day you want to trigger this job. Like for example, I want to trigger this job for every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour. You can define what happens if you schedule it for, let us assume, 60 minutes of interval. So for every 60 minutes, this particular job will be triggered, and it will try to fetch all the orders which are having remorse hold, and it will process those orders. So this particular time interval or schedule trigger is nothing but the trigger, how many times you want to trigger this particular agent in a day. Okay. And as part of criteria parameters, you can give anything. Like for example, I want to have something like any attribute which I want to use in my Java class. I can add the attributes here. I'll show you the implementation is done something like that only. So I'll show you. So these are the bare minimal configurations you need in order to create a non-task queue based transaction. And as part of this others, you can see there is a checkbox. This transaction is task based, but our transaction is a non-task queue based agent. So if it is a task queue based agent, you can select this particular checkbox. The entire agent will become a task queue based agent. Okay, is that clear on the configuration? You just have to mention your Java class name here. Our Java class name is something like this: com oms 94 test dot my class name. Okay, so this will be my Java class name. So likewise, you can configure your non-task queue based transaction, and you can do your the problem statement. I mean, like you can implement your problem statement. Any doubts so far, guys, before we get into this Java coding? Second, guys,
No, Pradeep.
I have one small document to show. I'm just stopping my screen share for a minute. I'll just have to search for the document. Hmm, got it. Let me know once you're able to see. Let me know once you're able to see.
Yes, Pradeep.
Yeah. So I'll share this document, however, but this particular document will explain the agent architecture in detail. Like as part of this particular document, they have explained the agent architecture like too detailed, I can say. Like for example, you can see there is a method called as get jobs. What is meant by get jobs? It is a method which fetches the records which agent has to process and puts these records in a JMS queue. These messages are picked up by the execute jobs method. That's it. Yeah, these messages will be picked up by the execute jobs method. Get jobs method reads get job trigger message. So what does that mean? Whenever you are triggering it for every 60 minutes, this particular get jobs will get triggered and it will consume or fetch all the records which has to be processed and put these records into JMS queue, and those messages are picked by the execute jobs method. And execute jobs method is a method which picks the record from JMS queue and processes them one record at a time. Okay, records in JMS queue are posted as execute message by the get jobs method. So the records in the JMS queue are posted as execute message by get jobs. So whenever the execute jobs is picking the records, that is posted by get jobs. And there is an attribute, or I can say there is an property called as number of records to buffer. What does that mean by number of records to buffer? Whenever we are talking about the configuration here, I was talking about criteria parameters. So here you can have something called as number of records to buffer. This particular configuration can be done here. What does this number of records to buffer? Like for example, I want 10 orders at a time. Like for example, I am giving 10 here. So what happens is, based on this number of records to buffer, the get jobs method, which is fetching the records, it will fetch 10 records at a time, and it will process the next step, that is pushing the 10 messages into JMS queue, and those 10 messages will be processed by execute jobs one at a time. You can see them, JMS queue, sorry, execute job method, which picks the record from JMS queue and process them one record at a time. So execute job will pick one by one, and it will process it. So this number of records to buffer, you can configure how many number of messages or records it has to pick at a time. If you are not giving any value here, then by default system considers the number of records to buffer as 5000. So that is the default number any agent can pick at a time if the number of records to buffer is not mentioned in the configuration. And number of threads, we have already discussed, that is the number of threads on which the agent can run at a time. So that we will discuss like when we are going through the entire document. At the end there is a what you call explanation for that. And trigger message, so as we just discussed, trigger message is nothing but whenever you are configuring it for 60 minutes, there will be a message sent to that particular agent to alert telling that you have to start your job, something like that. So this trigger message, you can see it has flow name. Flow is nothing but the name of that particular agent, and transaction key, action is equal to get, collect pending jobs as y, maximum records as 5, and number of records to buffer is 10. I'll show you as part of our example also, we can see this particular message. And get jobs message is nothing but whenever the agent is being triggered, it will invoke get jobs by sending this particular message. This particular message has something called as task queue, the last message queue. So basically here they have given example for a task queue based agent. We will see it for a non-task queue based agent today, and tomorrow we are going to see for task queue based agent. And execute message also the same way. What is the message it is going to come? I'll show all these examples as part of our Java coding. What is the message coming? What is the message going? Everything we can see here. And trigger agent, as we just discussed, trigger agent is a process which send trigger message manually to agent if the agent is not auto triggered. So as part of the uh, agent configuration, you can auto trigger by giving the number of minutes here. If you are not auto triggering the agent, it has to be manually triggered. In order to manually trigger an agent, you just have to go to your c oracle sorry coms bin folder, and you can go to command prompt. There is a command called as trigger agent cmd space, give your agent criteria id, whatever the criteria id you are giving here, you can give that criteria id so that it will get manually triggered. Okay, if you are not giving any number of minutes to be triggered here. Agent server name, we have already seen, we have configured one. JMS queue name, we have already configured one. QCF lookup, we have already configured one. And initial context factory, here in our case it is WebLogic. It depends upon project to project. In some projects they will be using WebSphere, JBoss, file, it can be anything. So this is how the configuration, which we have already discussed. Agent server, whatever the agent we are going to use, alert name, queue name, JMS queue, everything. And as part of the criteria parameters, you can see many things can be configured here. One is action as get, collect, like these things, whatever you are seeing, right? They comes by default whenever you are creating a task queue based agent. And now coming to starting the agent. For starting an agent, we all know that what should, sorry, we don't know. We know only for integration agent. Sorry, guys. So as part of the starting an agent, it is start agent. capital A. Sorry, it's agent server.
Start.
Agent server, yeah. Look, for our integration server, it is start integration server, but for agent server, it is simple agent server dot cmd. Okay, just you have to give agent server dot cmd space your server name. Okay, like for example, here their server name is some schedule. Whenever we have created our server name was resolve hold something. So agent server can be started by running agent server dot cmd or dot shell script in your bin folder. Agent server dot sh takes agent server name as the argument. Something like this. Agent server dot sh. Whenever you are running it on a Linux server, you have to use dot sh. Whenever you are running it on Windows, you have to use dot cmd. So agent trigger, as we just now seen, it is trigger agent dot cmd. So you can see for manual trigger, trigger agent script has to be invoked manually. That is trigger agent dot cmd script. For automatically triggering, you can schedule the message that has to be checked. Schedule trigger message has to be checked, and time interval needs to be configured in the agent configuration. So whatever we were discussing earlier, right? This particular schedule trigger message has to be checked, and you can mention the time interval as part of the auto trigger. And trigger agent, it's a command which we just discussed, can be found in bin folder. Install directory is a folder where Sterling is installed. Agent trigger puts the first get jobs message into JMS queue. This message is picked up by the get jobs method, and agent will not be triggered till the present jobs are processed. For example, the agent is triggered and it has fetched 10 jobs. Within meantime, before the 10 jobs are being processed, excuse me, before the 10 jobs are processed, if somebody manually triggers that particular agent, it will not be triggered because the agent is processing the current orders. And auto trigger also will not happen till all the records are processed. Whatever the current jobs are getting processed, until all the jobs are processed, auto trigger also will not happen. So ideally, you cannot trigger an agent when the agent is already processing some jobs. Even though you try to trigger, that trigger will not happen because as part of the trigger, they will try to obtain a lock. Like for example, whenever you are triggering that particular agent, you will see there will be something called as YFS object lock. Okay, there is a table called as YFS object lock. As part of this YFS object lock table, it will lock that particular agent criteria whenever it is processing. So whenever the process is completed, the lock will be resolved automatically. If the process is in progress, this particular lock will be obtained so that any more trigger cannot be done simultaneously. What happens when the trigger is happening simultaneously? It may get more jobs and execute jobs will not be able to perform accordingly. So that's why agent will not be triggered again till all the present records are processed. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, buddy.
Yeah. So this is a flow of an agent. Whenever the agent is started, agent after starting the first of all, you have to start the agent. After starting the agent, you have to trigger the agent. It can be manual. If it is manually, you will be doing it using the trigger agent.sh, or you can do it. Come on, or you can do it automatically. Automatically is nothing but you can configure the schedule trigger message based on the number of minutes. If it is manually, it is trigger agent.sh or trigger agent.cmd. Once the trigger is done, then it will trigger the get jobs method. What the get jobs will do, it has to get all the messages and post them into the JMS queue. Okay. So you can see whenever the agent trigger happens, it will put a message into JMS queue, that is get jobs trigger message. And whenever the agent reads the trigger message, it will invoke get jobs method first. And it will try to obtain the lock in YFS object lock. And if the lock is not available, it will exit. If the lock is available, it will fetch the records which needs to be processed, and all those records are posted as execute message to JMSQ. After the execute messages, one more get jobs message is also posted with last record key, and execute method picks execute messages one by one and process them. After all the execute messages are consumed, then only get jobs message is left in the queue. Method picks up the get jobs method left in the queue. I'll reiterate, but any doubts on so far, whatever discussed?
No, Pradeep.
Okay, we will just reiterate one more time. So, first of all, start the agent. Okay, and after starting the agent, we have to trigger the agent. And once the agent is triggered, there will be a trigger message kept in the queue. And get jobs will see this trigger message, okay, and it will try to obtain the lock in YFS object lock. Okay, if the lock is already present, what does that mean? That there is some other process going on. If the lock is not present, then that means that there is no jobs or messages getting processed. If the lock is not present, then get jobs will fetch the records according to number of records to buffer and pushes them to JMSQ, and execute job will process one by one. Okay, once for example, get jobs has fetched a 10. Okay, so what get jobs will do, they will put 10 plus one extra message. This extra message is again for get jobs. So what happens is execute job, whenever it is processing, it will process all the 10, and again it will tell get jobs go and get more records. We will process continuously. Okay, so that is one extra message which will be present. That we will see, like for more understanding, we will see a pictorial representation. Agent is started, agent is triggered, a trigger message is posted. After trigger message is posted, get jobs reads the trigger message. It will try to get the object lock. If it is successfully acquiring that object lock, it will post all the messages along with an extra get jobs message for the next batch. That is the 10 plus 1. This extra record is nothing but for the next batch. So execute method picks execute message. This continue till all the execute messages are picked from the JMS queue. If get jobs method, again whenever the record extra record comes, right, it will again go through the same process. Okay, so the same thing is given in an picture, JMSQ picture. So first of all, whenever the agent is starting, JMSQ is empty. Once the agent is triggered, JMSQ will have one trigger message. That is the first message, the trigger message. And get jobs will see the trigger message. It will fetch 10 records, let us assume, and it will put all the 10 records into JMS queue. That is execute job 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. Along with this 10, it will put one more extra, that is G1. So what execute job will do? Execute will pick one by one, and it will process. It will process all the G10 jobs Then when it encountered G1, it will get like I mean like it will inform the get jobs to get more jobs. So after E10 is completed, G1 will be done by get jobs again. It will get 10 more jobs. So the next 10 more jobs will be E11 to E20. Again, it will put G2. Then again, get jobs will get the next 10. Likewise, if you are having some 44 messages, so first four batches will be for 10, 10, 10, 10 will be completed. Last batch will have only four messages. So it will get all the four messages, and after that there are no messages. That means that there are no pending jobs to be done. So then the agent will go to ideal state. Okay. So this single thread versus multi-thread we will talk. But before that, let us go and implement the Java code. Before implementing the Java code, do you guys have any more doubts?
Nothing my fine mind, buddy.
Anything from Noor and Abhishek?
No, Pradeep.
Great. So I'm just creating one get order list input. Okay. So that I will understand more detail. So here my enterprise code is matrix and my hold type is remorse hold and status is 1100. So what am I doing here? For implementing my get jobs method, I need some logic. The logic here is it has to fetch the orders which are having remorse hold in created status. So whenever you want to get list of orders, what we will do? We will invoke get order list API. Okay. So in order to get this particular get order list of orders which are having remorse hold in created status, you can have this particular input. Okay, simple input. I'm just invoking and let us see what happens. Yes, okay, get order list. Pointer exception. Okay, just a second. Did I miss anything more? Okay, it's an hold type. Order hold type is an it's a child. So this is how the get order list input looks like. So as of now, I'm having 0 records with remorse hold. So let us create more orders so that as part of our configuration, let us see what is the remorse hold configuration matrix. Document specific, sales order, fulfillment, order modification, hold types, remorse hold. So on order creation, this particular hold will get created. So let me create some orders. Copy. I'll just create some 10-15 orders so that we will have a better understanding. So I've created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 15, 14. Let us have 14 orders. Let us try to fetch the orders on remorse hold now. Order list. So you can see there are 14 orders which are having remorse hold as Y. I mean like the remorse hold in created status. So in order to fetch only specific attributes, as I don't need all the attributes, I have created a service named get orders with hold. So I just need order header key. Okay. So you guys remember how to apply the template, right? Guys, I want you guys to talk so that we
Yes,
can be
yes,
fast.
Pradeep.
Yeah. So I don't remember. Create. Yeah. So get orders with hold. I just created a service which is having the get order list as a API. And here, if you see the template, it is just order list, order header key. So order list, order header key. Okay. So this is how my template looks like. So that's the reason I'm getting only this much. So I have got this much. My next job is execution. So get jobs, I'm good with the logic. Execute job, let us see what should be the logic. Execute job. What is the execute job logic? It has to resolve the hold on the order. So how to resolve a hold? You can use change order API. What is a change order API? Change order API is something which can be used to modify the order. So change order is an API. You can see change order API. Okay, whatever it is. Change order API takes the input XML to update an order. The updated order is examined and only changed values are applied to the order. Like for example, you can modify the order quantity from 10 to 12. Okay, and you can use a change order for resolving the hold on the order also. So that's why let us use this particular change order to resolve the hold. So how can we resolve the hold? So this is some sample input which I have created. So this is the input which we might need. So it just need order header key, full type. So it should be hold type. Hold type is remorse hold. Okay, and order header key. Let us take one order header key. Right now we have 14. I'm just taking one order header key and let us try to process that. So this is my change order input. So I'm processing one particular order hold. Okay, I'm invoking this. So the minute I invoke this particular order, its hold is resolved. Let us go and check its hold. Mhm. Where is if you see this particular order, you can see there is no hold. Let us see whether the hold is resolved or not. You can see the resolved hold is remorse hold. And we can also see who has did it. Like if you go to order audit, you can see admin, our user ID admin, okay, has did some hold type modification. If you go to detail, there is some hold type called as a remorse hold, which was y, hold flag is y, we made it to n. Hold status was 1100. 1100 is nothing but created status. 1300 is nothing but a resolved status. So that's why whenever I'm fetching the records, I'm using status as 1100. Whenever I'm resolving the hold using change order API, I'm using 1300. Okay. So this is my execution logic. Now coming to my Java code, what is written. So as part of my Java code, you can see there are two things. One is get jobs. The second thing is execute job. What am I doing in the get jobs? Let us see. First thing is I am getting the XML, the input XML, that is criteria parameter XML. Criteria parameter. Let us open the transaction which I have created. So that is this one. No, 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 no. Guys, please give me 10 more minutes. I guess some session timed out. Sorry, guys, please give me 10 more minutes. I'll finish it up. Guys, any doubts so far, please talk. I hope at least you guys are able to follow. Uh,
Yes, yes, Pradeep.
Yes, Pradeep.
yeah. Yeah. So, in order to have this, I've created a transaction for us. Process modeling, fulfillment. As part of the transactions, I've created this resolve hold. So if you see, this is a Java code, com OMS 94 test resolve hold X. And as part of the agent criteria, you can see my criteria name is resolve hold, agent server name is resolve hold, queue name is resolve hold queue, and all that. I am not giving the schedule trigger. We will do it manually. And as part of criteria parameters, I have given number of records to buffer as 5. What does that means? It will pick 5 messages at a time, and enterprise code as matrix, and hold type as remote hold. So why I have given enterprise code and matrix, sorry, enterprise code and hold type here is this can be used for different enterprises and different hold types. Like tomorrow I want to use this for digital hold. Let us assume for a different hold type. I can just change it here. So my agent is customizable. It can be used for any kind of hold type. So now whatever, as I mentioned, right, whatever you are configuring here as part of criteria parameters, it comes as input to your Java code. This particular criteria document will have the details, whatever you are configuring here. So I'm just getting that particular criteria document, you can see, and from that I'm getting enterprise code, I'm getting number of records to buffer, I'm getting hold type. So all of them I'm getting, you can see I'm getting it from criteria element dot get attribute, criteria element dot get attribute, criteria element dot get attribute. I'm getting all of them, and I'm going to this method called as get order list. So as part of this get order list, I'm getting those number of records to buffer. Number of records to buffer in my case is 5. So this maximum records at a time, it will pull 5 records at a time. Okay, and the rest part is same, whatever we have already seen. That is normal get order list input. So when I give maximum records as 5, let us see what happens. So here as part of this, I am giving maximum records as 5. So you can see whenever I'm giving maximum records as 5, as part of our get order list, it will fetch only 5 records. See, it is picking only 5 records. So likewise, first 5 it will pick. So you can see the get order list will pick first 5 records. And after picking those 5 records, I am iterating. You can see there is a for loop here. So I am iterating over this particular 5 orders, getting each of its order header key. Okay. So I'm just invoking this. So this is the output I have got. I'm iterating over these 5 order header keys, getting each of its order header key. Then I'm creating a change order input. So using this input, I'm creating a change order input and I am putting all of them into one list of documents. You can see list documents dot add. So all those 5 will get added into list of documents and that will be pushed to the JMS queue. And pushing to the JMS queue, we don't have to do it. System will take care automatically. You just have to implement your get jobs method. Any doubts in get jobs method? Here in my get jobs method, I am just doing 2 things. One thing, I am fetching all the attributes from the criteria parameter and getting all the orders which are eligible to resolve the hold. And second thing, I am creating the input to change order API. Once you are done with your get jobs, whatever you are returning out of the get jobs will be published or pushed into the JMS queue. Is that clear? Whatever we are doing as part of get jobs.
Yes, Pradeep.
Pavan, Abhishek,
Yes, Pradeep.
Noor. Okay. So whenever the get jobs is completed, according to our document, what it should happen? It should publish all this message along with a get jobs message to a JMS queue. And JMS queue, it will be exposed to execute jobs. So what execute job is doing? Execute job, it is very simple. It is taking whatever the message to be processed one by one and it is invoking change order API. So the minute they invoke the change order API, it will resolve the hold. So now let us see what happens. So I'm just showing you guys. Let us see how many we have. So we have a total of 13 orders now. So 13 orders in a batch of 5 it should happen because number of records to buffer is 5. So let us start the server. What is my server name? My server name is resolve hold. Can anyone tell me how to start a server?
That agent server dot cmd
Yeah,
paste
agent server.cmd and
paste
my
the
server name. What
right
is the server name?
uh,
Resolve hold. So it is resolve hold. So I'm just starting my server. Some problem, or it should be, it can be ignored. Hey, hey, just some time back. Not able to get a connection for Oracle Pula. It was
you,
working just.
you said
Hmm.
it is criteria id, right? We have to use.
No, no, that is for trigger.
Okay.
For triggering, you have to use criteria ID. For starting, you have to use start agent. Sorry, agent server. Account is locked down. Failed attempts. Oh fuck. Connect. First, streaming password system. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I'm able to connect. Let me start the server. Yeah. So for starting the agent server, it will be agent server.cmd. We just have to give resolve hold. That is our server name. So now you can see successfully all the services are started. The next step is, as my transaction, whatever I have configured, it is not having the schedule trigger message, it will not be auto triggered. So I have to trigger it manually. In order to trigger manually, it should be trigger agent.cmd. And we should give the criteria ID. The criteria ID here is resolve underscore hold. So the minute I trigger, let us go and see what happens in the agent server logs. So it is getting triggered. So it should start picking the jobs and all. Okay, you can see it started picking one by one. Let us see what is happening one by one. So it has happened already. Everything is completed. If you see the number of records, now it will be 0. That means all the orders has got remorse hold resolved. Let us see how exactly it has happened as part of the logs for understanding more. So as I mentioned, the first thing happens whenever you invoke an agent. As part of our Java code, we get this criteria document as input. You can see get jobs criteria XML I am printing here. So when you see get jobs criteria XML, it is something like this. What is the XML having? It is having action as get, document has 0001, enterprise code matrix, hold type remorse hold, number of records to buffer as 5. So whatever you are configuring here, all these three parameters has come as input to your Java code. And the next thing is transaction ID is resolve hold, transaction key is normal level, whatever the transaction key it is. So as part of my Java code, what is the next step I'm doing? I'm fetching all the attributes, enterprise code, number of records to buffer, whole type, and I'm going and preparing the input to get order list. So the input to get order list is something like this. It is having enterprise code as matrix, maximum records as 5, remorse hold as whole type as remorse hold, status as 1100. So whenever this particular get jobs method is what you call that invoked, it will get first 5 records. And after getting the first 5 records, what are we doing? We are preparing the change order input and we are putting the input into JMS queue. And once the JMS queue is consuming by execute jobs, it will take one by one and it will process. You can see here it is processing one by one, like execute job 1, execute job 2, execute job 3, okay, execute job 4, execute job 5. Once the 5 execute jobs are done, what should be the next step? It should get more get jobs. After getting more get jobs, it will put 5 more messages and it will put one more get jobs message. So you can see here again one more get jobs message has come. Again it is picking five more messages and it will execute five more now. One, two, three, four, and five. Now five is completed. What it should do? It should get next to five more execute jobs. But we don't have five because you remember we had only 13. So again one more get jobs. It is trying to fetch five. You can see five, but it has got only three because we had only 13 orders. So one, two, three. So after completing the three, it has completed all the three. It has given for get jobs again. And this time get jobs is trying to fetch five more, but there is nothing to fetch. So the agent went to ideal state. Is that clear?
Yes, Pradeep.
Yes, Pradeep.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, that's all I had for the day on non-task based agent. Tomorrow we will connect and talk about task based agent. I'll share this document, the Java code, the configuration, what all needs to be done over an email. You guys can try it out and let us have a discussion if you have any questions and clarifications on non-task based agent. And if you guys are already into some Sterling project, please go back and try to check if there is any non-task based agent in your project and try to understand how that works. Any doubts, clarifications, questions we can discuss, else we can drop off.
No, Pradeep.
Awesome, guys. Have a nice day. Thank you. We'll meet tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pradeep.